Good afternoon, Elevate 2025. My name is Daniel Wakefield, and in case you didn't notice, I am not a woman. But I'm so excited to support events like this, and especially to support Alex with her event. Last year I was at Elevate 2024, the first one, and my book was, the first draft was just about done, and I was starting to think about teaching workshops and doing a little bit of speaking and things, and I got brave afterwards, and I said to Alex, so, what do you think about me speaking at Elevate 2025? And she immediately said, let's do it. So thank you for believing in me, thank you. So this is what I do. I turn faces into brands. So that's my work, top tier headshots, but this is my why right there. Oh, yeah. So my beautiful wife, Bethany, and my 4 kids, they are the reason for why I do what I do. So just a little bit about me, in case you don't know me. I was actually born in Canada. I grew up in the States, though, primarily. Grew up in a couple different states. Got married to my beautiful wife in 2012, and then moved to Florida in 2015, 10 years ago. Where's the time gone? And yes, I did used to be a high school science teacher, so please no passing notes. And then just a little bit about how I got into photography. So it was actually my passion for wildlife and nature that got me into photography in the first place. And so I really picked it up when I moved down to Florida 10 years ago. Was like, I really enjoy doing this. I want to learn, I want to grow, and ended up getting published in some books and magazines, and then placed pretty highly in some international competitions for wildlife photography. This is where Top Tier Headshots started, in my living room. Yes, Anna was there. So we have some OG clients in the house, but this is where it started. And I wanted to share a little bit more about where I was at, where my family was at when we started. So the problem was, obviously, when you start a business, where do I find clients? My first month in business, we brought in $60. And I want to just pause for a second and just, like, even myself, remember the weight of that. And here's why there was so much weight with that. My wife was working part-time as a nurse. It was giving us a cushion because I dove into this business with both feet. I did not have a job on the side. I was committed to this. And then she got pregnant with our 4th, and she got really sick with that pregnancy. And she got so sick that she had to stop working. And so now all of a sudden, through no fault of her own or anybody's, but now all of a sudden the entire weight of feeding all these mouths was on me. And at the time I had 2 connections on LinkedIn. So pretty humble beginnings, and also 0 networking experience. Like, I knew networking was a thing, but I was like, what do I do? I have no idea. So then what happened a little over a year later of diving into the business, honing my craft, learning to network and to sell and to market and all of these things, a little over a year later, we had our first $50,000 month as a business. And for a solopreneur, like, to say that was life-changing for our family is an understatement. It really was life-changing. And so I want to talk a little bit about how that happened. How did we get from that $60 month to a year later, $50,000 month? And it really highlights a problem that a lot of us face as business owners. Sometimes finding new clients can feel like you're pushing a boulder up a hill, and it's hard, and it takes grit and effort and resilience, and you've got to keep at it. You've got to be consistent. And I want to use this story as a little bit of an example because this is something that happened to me. So early on, I met a guy through LinkedIn And he expressed some interest in getting some headshots done. So we got on a phone call together. And he liked what I was doing, but in the end, he was like, "You're just too expensive for what we need." So no problem, happy to be a resource if needed, but that was that. Well, we stayed connected on LinkedIn, and a couple of years later, we bumped into each other at a networking event. And he was like, "It's really cool to see what you're doing, how your business has grown, all of this stuff." He wanted to get together for a coffee, and I said, "Sure, let's do it." And we got together for a coffee. We're just talking about business. I wasn't trying to sell him on anything. We were just having a great conversation, building relationships. And so that happened, and there was something that was different this time around with the conversation. And he was really excited. And then a couple of weeks later, he reached out and said, "Okay, I think we're ready for headshots." And I said, "Great, so let's hop on a call." And so we talked through everything again, go through, what's gonna be included, what we're gonna do, how I'm gonna help his brand. And his conclusion is, it's a no-brainer. The only difference is my price had nearly doubled since the last time. So how do you go from you're too expensive to it's a no-brainer? Of course we're gonna work together when your price has almost doubled. And I want to present to you this hot take today. And this is something that I've really come to realize in my business. I don't need more clients in my business. What I need are brand evangelists. Now, what I might say is that, okay, so maybe the previous statement isn't exactly true. Maybe I should say, you don't simply need more clients. You need brand evangelists. What's a brand evangelist? A brand evangelist is not a satisfied client. A brand evangelist is an overwhelmed client. A brand evangelist is someone who is so overwhelmed by the quality of your work and by the client experience and how you went above and beyond to help them achieve their goals that they cannot help but get on a rooftop and shout your name to everybody that will listen to them. That's a brand evangelist. So remember that. A brand evangelist is not a satisfied client, it is an overwhelmed client. And here's what happens. Here's what happens. If you get enough brand evangelists, you might just start a hype tornado. All right? So here's what a hype tornado is. I was thinking, as I was writing my book and thinking through some of these things, I was thinking about this, what I saw happening in my business, and trying to think about, well, how would I explain this? I had other photographers coming to me, asking me for help with business growth, and I was thinking, I see this hype that's happening in my business, but how do I explain that to someone else? And is there some sort of framework that I can come up with that really shows what's been happening? And I had this thought in my mind. You've all heard of the term vicious cycle, right? So a vicious cycle is like a negative feedback loop, two or more things working together and things get worse and worse and worse. And I was like, it's like that, but in reverse. Right? So it's a good thing. But then I was like, well, is there a phrase for that? And there is. The positive version of a vicious cycle is called a virtuous cycle. And it's a positive feedback loop. Two things working together, or multiple things working together to make things better and better and better. And I just thought to myself, well, virtuous cycle is kind of boring. And it's kind of a little bit clinical, and it doesn't really capture the vibe that I wanted to have. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, what spins in a circle? And I thought, it's a hype tornado. And so that's what I'm going with, all right? So here's what a hype tornado looks like. It is a interworking between these three things: having a killer product or service, having unforgettable client experience, and having a social presence that adds value. So I want to dive into those three things really quickly and then unpack some of that. So the first thing, having a killer product or service. It is not going to work if your product or service is mediocre. Mediocrity is not an option. You need to be producing a product or a service that knocks people's socks off. And if it's not quite there yet, then invest in yourself to help it get there. So that's the first part of the hype tornado. You need to have a product or service that is killer. A second thing, unforgettable client experience. Again, not mediocre, not satisfactory, unforgettable. Let me ask you this. What is the heart of client experience? If we boil it all down to something, what is the heart of client experience? Somebody tell me. Somebody yell it out. Solving a problem, to be heard. Yes. It's how we make people feel. Now, there's a lot of different aspects of that, but ultimately, how people feel when they work with you is what they're going to remember. And so that's what we need to do in our own businesses. I'm not going to go and read through these, but these are testimonials from some of my amazing clients. And if you go through and read some of them, a large part of what they talk about is not just the image that I produce for them, but it's the experience. It's how I made them feel, how I lifted them up while we were working together. So one of the helpful things you can do is you can actually go through and read your own Google reviews and just see what are the common threads that are occurring throughout your Google reviews. And if there's certain areas that need work, then you can work on them. If there's certain things that you excel at, that'll probably come out as a common thread in those reviews. So I'm boiling it down to 3 things that I want clients to feel when they come and work with me. I want them to feel heard. That I'm not just saying, I'm not the one talking the whole time, but I'm giving them space to share what's important to them. How can I help them achieve their goals? I want my clients to feel taken care of. And whatever that means for that particular client, that's what I want to do. And then number 3, and arguably the most important one, I want to help my clients feel empowered. I want them to feel like they got lifted up and empowered to go and achieve their goals and dreams because they came and worked with me. Okay, so those are 3 things I want clients to feel. So that's the unforgettable client experience. Now, thirdly, a social presence that adds value. Now, what do I mean by that? So by social presence, we could be talking about your presence on LinkedIn. We could be talking about your in-person networking. You could insert your favorite Ripple app or something like that platform. So places that you show up to socialize professionally. So social presence, but what's the add value part? Because that's key. That is so key with this. And I like to boil this down to showing up with a go-giver attitude, right? So it's not just about, hey, I'm coming to an event. I've met a lot of people at an event where the only thing they were interested in was selling me something. Who likes to be sold to at an event? Good, I don't see any hands. Nobody likes that. We want to show up with a mentality of, as my friend Romy says, how can I help? That is the adds value part. And some ways that I do that on online, places like LinkedIn, is, so if I post a headshot of somebody that I worked with, I like to make it a shout out for them. It's not a sales pitch for me, it's actually a sales pitch for them and why you should go and work with them. So that's one example. Another one, if I go to an event like this, I want to talk about some takeaways that I had. I don't want it to just be, hey, here's a selfie of me at the event, and that's it. But what did I learn from it? What were my takeaways? What would get people to come to the event next year or next time? Or what would, give some people some encouragement in their LinkedIn feed and things like that? And then a last thing is, how many entrepreneurs do we have in the room? Got a lot of entrepreneurs. How many entrepreneurs face some sort of obstacles on a regular basis? Anybody? Okay, good. We got honest entrepreneurs. That's good. I like to write about those because when I write about them, it helps me think through them more, but it resonates with people because they see like, okay, it's not just this perfect facade, but here's a real person with real challenges. Here's how I'm seeking to overcome, press on, be resilient, and all of that. So how does it all fit together? Well, allow me to explain. So we start with a killer product or service. Somebody comes and works with you, and they're so blown away by your product that they're just like, this is the best thing ever. Right? And on top of that, the client experience, the way that you made them feel heard, taken care of, empowered, all of the things, and they're just like, they leave working with you and they're just like, I have to go and tell people about this, right? What happens if you have clients like that, if you're doing those first two things and you have clients like that, what happens when you go and you show up at a networking event and those clients are there? What happens? Come here, I gotta go and introduce you to everybody, let's go. And all of a sudden, like, I don't have to do anything. I just have to show up and everybody's like, come on, I gotta introduce you to like 5 people, okay? But then what happens as your network grows? What happens as you continue to network, you build on LinkedIn, your network is getting larger, there's more people in the business industries that you know, like, and trust. When people come back around to here and they come in and work with you, a lot of times when people come and work with us, it's like the barbershop, they just share everything, right? Everything that's going on personally, professionally. I don't know about you guys, but people just open up and tell me stuff. And they share about needs that they have. They talk about their business, obstacles they're facing. Now I've got this network that I can help them more. And when I help them more, I'm adding more value to my session, to my service, to what I'm providing. The client experience is getting even better because not only am I solving their direct need, their direct problem, I'm now solving other problems for them. And then it goes and it makes that better. And then it makes everything better, and it keeps going around and around and around, and all of a sudden, getting clients is not like pushing a rock up a hill. It's like the boulder rolling down the hill on the other side. And now you're not fighting to find new clients. Now you're managing inbound because it's flooding in. So that is how a hype tornado works. Now, very important here. What happens when just one piece of that hype tornado is missing? Actually, I don't call them pieces of the hype tornado. I call them the environmental conditions that create a hype tornado. I'm very committed to this analogy. So, what happens when one of the environmental conditions is missing? So, let's say you've got unforgettable client experience, you make people feel pretty darn good, and you've got a great social presence, but your product or service is kind of mediocre. It stalls out the hype tornado. What happens when you've got a great product or service and a social presence that adds value, but your client experience is a little bit so-so? And I know because I've coached other photographers that these two things were true, but the client experience wasn't there. What happens? Nobody talked about him. Or what happens when you've got the great product or service and the unforgettable client experience, but you've got no social presence that adds value? Well, you're still probably going to get some word of mouth. There's going to be some clients coming in because of that, but the hype tornado is not going to get started. And so it's super important that if you want to start a hype tornado in your business, you have got to have all 3 pieces in place. Now, very briefly, again, I'm very committed to this analogy. What is the eye of the storm? What ties it all together and really accelerates the impact? The eye of the storm is to help people see their future self through what you do. It's not just about giving somebody a product or a service, it's transformational. And just very briefly, I want to share about this amazing woman. When she came in to work with me, and it was a very special session because we weren't just doing some headshots, we were actually trying to shoot her book cover. And so we were getting into it. Obviously, we were having a great time together. And all of a sudden, as we got into it, I captured this photograph. And when we looked at the screen, when the two of us looked at the screen and we saw that image, it was like there was this unspoken vibe between us of, this is who you were born to be. And everyone, this is the center of the hype tornado. It's not just, hey, here's a great product, here's a great service. It's what will your life look like after, what will someone's life look like after they use your product or your service? What transformation are you offering? People come to us for help on the outside, but we have the power to help them on the inside, and that is so much more impactful. This business is not, this framework is not just about increasing revenue, it's about increasing impact. And the impact happens in the transformation. So some takeaways: commit to excellence in your craft. Don't be satisfied with mediocrity. Make your client experience unforgettable. Don't just offer people a product or service, help them win. And help people see who they were born to be through your product or service. Thank you so much. I'd love to connect with you.
The hype is real. The hype is real, people. The hype is real with Daniel here. My goodness, I love that. Sure, you can stay up here. Do you want to stay up here? Are we taking a picture? Aren't you the picture guy?
I guess. I didn't bring a camera.
Sandra, come on up, take a picture. So good. I'm jumping in on this picture. Yeah. I'm here.